Welcome to the Cheating Wife Stories channel. Silence. I do not regret. Her voice breaks the hush like a stone through glass. I should have expected that. Ashley has never been one to hold her tongue. She says it so calmly, her gaze fixed on a point just over my shoulder. We're standing in our living room, the sun just barely dipping behind our suburban skyline. I taste the bitterness in the air, or maybe it's just the dryness in my throat. I say nothing, because in that moment, I'm remembering the silence that's been growing between us for months. The kind of silence that isn't peaceful. It's loaded, waiting to explode. Ashley shifts her weight onto one foot, arms crossed, chin raised, as if this was all a mere inconvenience she's bracing for. She exhales sharply. "You heard me," she says. "I don't regret what happened." I don't answer. I can't. My heart's hammering. Under the surface, I feel a tidal wave rising in slow motion, about to crash. I can't recall the last time I experienced anger so pure and cold that it almost scorched my skin. I think it was years ago, working construction, when a foreman tried to blame me for a structural miscalculation I didn't make. But that was a work conflict, impersonal, easily fixed with a blueprint and a conversation. This is my marriage. My life. I could press her, push her to say more, but I realize it doesn't matter. Her eyes are lit with something I've never quite seen in her before. Defiance, maybe. Or something emptier. Something that's replaced the woman I thought I knew. I draw in a slow breath, rub the back of my neck out of old habit. My voice emerges in a coarse rasp. "How long have you been lying to me?" She snorts softly, a mocking sound. It reminds me of the times I teased her about her coffee addiction, or the hours she'd spend browsing social media. But now, it's edged with cruelty. "Lying," she repeats. "I guess that depends on what you call lying." Maybe I just didn't bother to mention it. I feel my fists tighten. The tension is so thick I can sense it pressing in on us like an invisible wall. We're back from separate work trips. At least that's what I thought. I'd been in Denver for a site inspection that turned sour and got extended. I believed she was traveling to her mom's in Reno. That was the story. Now I know better. Now I've seen the photo. A single click on a phone screen changed everything. She posted it, or maybe it posted itself, automatically, while they were out drinking and living it up. Ashley and that guy, Brandon Carter, leaned into each other, smiling at the camera with the neon haze of a Reno bar behind them. The caption read like a punchline, "Best night of my life." Her comment, "Not mine." And the GPS tag pinned it in Reno, on a day I was supposed to believe she was visiting her mother, alone. At first, I hoped it was some glitch. She couldn't really be there. She wouldn't do this to me, to us. But I'm no fool. I checked the receipts on our joint credit card. A bar tab in Reno, hours after a plane ticket to the same city. She never told me she was flying. She'd said, "I'm driving. Might take me a while." I was supposed to be in Denver, far removed from her real itinerary. The lies, so layered, so carefully placed. But the kicker? That came 2 weeks later, in the form of a DNA test. I'd had doubts before. Tommy was born small, a month premature, Ashley insisted. My mother always said something seemed off. But I dismissed it. I trusted my wife, for God's sake. Then I started noticing things. The timing, the subtle differences in how she held him, especially after we'd fight, and how sometimes I caught her looking at him like she was ashamed. It gnawed at me. I tested him under the guise of routine paternal screening, using a discreet lab. And the results landed on my desk one bleak Tuesday morning. Tommy isn't mine. In that moment, something in me died. Or started to. "I'm not going to beg forgiveness," she says now, leaning against the couch as if she's bored. I felt alive with him, Michael. More alive than I have in years with you. She meets my stare, and I see no fear. "Whatever you're thinking, just remember, you pushed me there." My throat tightens around a swirl of rage and heartbreak. How exactly did I push you to cheat? She shrugs, unimpressed by my despair. We grew dull. You never looked at me the way he does. You never took me on spontaneous trips or made me feel like I matter outside of your job and your tidy spreadsheets. I open my mouth to argue, but the words don't come. It's like my mind has shut off the rational part of me. All that remains is a man grappling with betrayal so deep he can hardly see straight. Outside, a car horn blares in the distance. Inside, the hush returns, broken only by our fractured breathing. She lifts her chin, that mocking half-smile playing on her lips, and says, "Just say what you need to say, Michael. Or leave. I don't really care which. I want to lash out. Yell, scream, break something." Instead, I remember the vow I made to myself the moment I got those test results. I remember telling myself, don't scream, don't break. Build. Construct your path out of this the same way you build a road. Patiently, meticulously, but with unwavering intention. Because good engineering is about controlling chaos, guiding it into a system. That is what I decided to do. All right, I manage, voice shaking. Let's do it your way. No regrets, right? She lifts a brow. That's what I said. I study her face, the angles and curves I used to kiss with genuine affection. Her eyes, so warm once, now full of a distant, mocking light. I drink it in, forcing myself to memorize this moment. Then I turn and walk away. Because for me, the real war has begun. I remember the day we met. She was all sunshine and casual grace outside a marketing conference, balancing coffee cups in a cardboard tray. I bumped into her, apologized awkwardly, and she laughed it off, introduced herself. That was Ashley, quick to connect, smiling, full of ideas. We married 2 years later, in a small ceremony with her mother sniffling in the front row. She said I brought her stability. I thought she cherished that. But stability bored her, apparently. Or maybe I just took her for granted. That's the question that gnaws at me. Am I truly to blame? She said I was distant, overworked, too cautious. So she found the opposite, a younger bartender who breathes fun out of every pore. And she ended up pregnant with his child, letting me believe for almost 3 years that I was Tommy's father. I drive aimlessly through the outskirts of Denver. My eyes sting. The city lights blur on the windshield. Once or twice, I have to pull over because my hands tremble so badly I can't grip the steering wheel. What do I even do now? Part of me fantasizes about violent payback, taking the swing at Brandon, humiliating him, exposing him as a homewrecker. Another part wants to tear up every photograph we ever took together, pack my bags, and vanish. But then I think of Tommy. The boy calls me Dad, even though the test says otherwise. He's innocent in this. The best I can do is gather my dignity, but I'm not dignified enough to walk away. Not yet, because there's something else here. An anger that's turned cold, potent. An anger that wants answers and retribution. Ashley says she doesn't regret. Fine, I'll make her regret it. That night, in the hush of our now half-empty bedroom, she stormed off to the guest room. I start gathering everything. Photos, text messages, credit card receipts from Reno, the lab results. I compile them into a thick dossier, print them out, slip them into a shoebox. On the lid, in black marker, I write, "Open when I'm gone." But I don't plan on disappearing quietly. I plan on orchestrating the perfect exit. The next few days pass in a blur. Ashley vacillates between cold indifference and scathing remarks. She's on her phone, likely texting Brandon. She doesn't try to hide it. Tommy stays with my parents in Ohio for a short visit, none the wiser. Meanwhile, I put my plan into motion. I contact a friend who used to be in law enforcement. I ask questions, purely hypothetical. What if someone was burned beyond recognition in a car accident? What do they check to ID them if the body is badly charred? He mentions dental records, IDs, location, next of kin. He doesn't ask why I'm curious. but he gives me enough. That's all I need. I work late nights in the garage, tinkering with old scrap metal, calibrating how best to replicate a scenario that suggests I died on the road. I buy a cheap car from a junk dealer, no questions asked. Step by step, meticulously, I build the stage for my own death. It isn't madness, not exactly. It's the cold logic of a man who can't find closure any other way. If I just left or demanded a divorce, she'd still mock me. She'd still walk away unscathed. But if I die, she'll have to face the weight of everything she's done. Especially once she opens that box, and when she believes she's free of me. I'll come back. I'll return and demand an explanation. Or maybe not demand. Maybe I'll just make her see me and realize she destroyed the one thing that held her world together. Night after night, I refine the details. I speak minimally to Ashley, ignoring her jabs. I pay the mortgage early. I quietly switch my life insurance to a beneficiary trust for Tommy. Despite his real paternity, I can't make myself disown him. My sister and parents won't like the charade, but it's safer if they remain clueless. Every time Ashley glances at me, I see that flicker of contempt, that hint of guilt she tries to bury under her mocking grin. "How's your big plan going?" she sneers one evening. "Or are you just gonna mope around forever?" I just keep my gaze steady. "You'll find out," I say simply, and slip into the garage. She laughs behind me, a bitter note in that sound I once loved. On the night I finally do it, the sky is mercilessly black. I drive out to a deserted stretch of highway. The old junk car is parked in a patch of scrub off to the side. I've prepared the trunk with a can of gasoline, old papers, and a few pieces of identification. My driver's license, wallet, and some worn personal belongings that can be found among the wreckage. The plan is to crash and burn the car beyond recognition, leaving false clues that make it look like my body was consumed in the flames. I wipe sweat from my brow. My stomach knots. I'm terrified, because there's no turning back once I do this. But I recall her voice, that calm statement. "I do not regret." The memory steals me. I drive at a moderate speed, swerve off the road just enough that it looks accidental, then step out. I douse the interior with gasoline. My heart pounds like a drum in my ears. I back off a safe distance, take one final look, and toss a lit match into the car. The whoosh of ignition roars louder than I expected. Flames leap up, devouring the car in seconds. I stand there, numb, watching the fire paint the night in violent shades of orange and red. The heat scorches my face, forcing me to step away. Everything inside me clenches in a twisted sense of triumph and dread. The old me is in that car, burning to ash. When the flames are high enough, I slip into the darkness. My own actual vehicle is hidden a mile away, stashed behind an abandoned barn. I jog toward it, adrenaline surging. By the time the authorities arrive, they'll find smoldering remains and assume the worst. A single occupant. Me. And so I vanish. At the funeral, I watch from a distance. The coffin is closed because the body was unrecoverable, except for a few charred fragments. I needed the insurance people, the police, everyone to believe it was me. Ashley wears black, stands with a stoic expression. I see tears in her eyes, though. They look pretty enough, but they ring hollow to me. Even from far away, partially disguised under a baseball cap and sunglasses, I sense the tension in her posture. Maybe she's grieving her husband, or maybe she's weeping because it's all too real, too messy. Her mother is there, arms around Ashley, while my own parents and sister weep uncontrollably. That's the hard part. I can't comfort them. I can't let them see me. A pang of guilt hits me, seeing how devastated my folks are. But I remind myself, I'm doing this for a reason. Once the dust settles, once Ashley opens that box labeled "Open when I'm gone," the truth will gut her. The world might vilify me, but I don't plan on letting this injustice stand. Not without some kind of answer. I duck behind a towering headstone as she steps forward to place a single rose on the casket. The wind ruffles her hair. I think I see her lips move, but I can't hear the words. Then she steps back, turns away, and is swallowed by the small crowd of mourners. Goodbye, Michael. I whisper to myself. Rest in peace or pieces, whichever you prefer. Because that version of me is indeed gone. Time passes slower once you're dead. I rent a small rundown cabin in the foothills, hours from Denver. I keep the shutters closed, avoid social media. My phone is a burner, used only for essential calls. Officially, I no longer exist. The only link I keep is a hidden camera feed from the doorbell I set up at the house. I also bribe a friend from the construction firm with hush money to forward me any relevant updates. I discover a few days after the funeral. Ashley is busy rummaging through the house, presumably searching for the box. I see her carrying items out, making calls, trying to handle whatever finances remain. She doesn't look like a grieving widow, more like a woman rearranging her life. Then, a week later, I catch a moment on the camera feed. She finds the box. She picks it up, stares at the label. Open when I'm gone. Her brow furrows. She tucks it under her arm and disappears inside. I hold my breath. Now is the moment of truth. Now she'll see. The photos, the messages, the DNA results, the receipts that detail her time in Reno. She'll see the flight stub I found in her coat pocket. She'll read her own mocking comment. Best night of my life. And I wonder, will her tears be real this time? I wait, tension rising, for a reaction. Nothing. No calls to my parents. No frantic meltdown. But the next day, a small detail. She leaves the house in a hurry, wearing a forced expression. She drives away and doesn't come back until late. She looks shaken. Not broken, but rattled. Probably calling Brandon, seeking comfort. I count the days. My reappearance must be timed perfectly. I'm letting her stew, letting the knowledge fester. Maybe she's realized she inherited no large payout. My life insurance was transferred to a trust for Tommy, with strict conditions on disbursement. Maybe she's discovered that the house is left in my sister's name. Ashley's locked out of any financial windfall. If she thought she'd be set for life, she was wrong. She got a coffin, a box, and a funeral. The nights are long in the cabin. I stare at the battered walls, going over the plan. My thirst for vengeance churns with something else. A gnawing emptiness. I see Tommy's face in my memories, calling me Dad. And I realize even if I've left Ashley, I've also left him. That's the cost of this revenge. It weighs heavier every day. But I keep telling myself, soon, I'll knock on her door. And I'll see what regrets she has left. The day arrives under a cold autumn sky. I pack a duffel bag with essentials, slip into the old truck I use now. My heart thrums as I drive back to the city I once called home. The roads are familiar, but I feel like a ghost haunting a previous life. The air is crisp, the sun sinking low as I park a few streets away and walk the rest, hood pulled over my head. Approaching the house is surreal. It's the same yard, the same front porch. A wind chime dangles near the door, the same one Ashley bought on a whim at a craft fair. Our wedding photograph is probably still on the living room mantel. My sister told me Ashley didn't pack it up. Maybe out of guilt, or maybe out of some twisted sense of memory. I stand there, fighting to control my breathing. My right hand trembles. In the distance, I see lights in the living room. So she's home. Good. I knock. 3 times. Solid. The echo in my chest is deafening. Inside, I hear footsteps. Then the door opens, and there she is, in a light sweater, leggings, hair pulled back. She looks tired, eyes rimmed with shadows. She stares at me, and her face goes chalk white. For a few seconds, it's utter, stunned silence. She staggers a step back, as if she's seen a ghost. Michael, she breathes. Is that you? I step inside, forcing her to move back. She smells like lavender. The old familiarity stings me. I see the fear crawling across her features. She almost drops the phone in her hand. The door creaks behind me, closing us in. "What the hell is this?" she demands in a shaky voice. You're dead. They buried you." "Apparently not," I say, my tone hollow. Her eyes flicker from shock to anger. Is this some sick joke? I meet her gaze, unflinching. "No joke. You wanted a dramatic ending, Ashley. I thought I'd give you one." She exhales a trembling breath, steps backward until she bumps into the living room sofa. She's cornered. I see in her eyes the sudden realization that everything, her tears at the funeral, her reading of that box, was orchestrated. "You did this," she mutters, voice trembling. "You planned all of it. The accident, the funeral, the box." Why? I want to roar at her, to pour out all the vile anguish that's been simmering in me. Instead, I speak quietly. "You said you didn't regret. Not even destroying our marriage. Not even lying about Tommy. You posted that photo. You wrote best night of my life." She flinches, like the memory slaps her. "I was drunk. It's not like." "Shut up," I say more coldly than I ever have in my life. I see tears forming, but I recall the day of the funeral, that stoic posture, that mocking smirk she gave me when I was still breathing under the same roof. "I told you I'd figure it out. And I did." Her voice rises in anger, trying to mask the fear. "That's insane. You let me think you were dead. You let your own parents bury an empty casket. You left me all alone. All alone." I hiss. "Don't you have Brandon to keep you company?" She shuts her eyes. "Michael, that was a mistake. You have no right to judge me when you pulled this twisted stunt. My God, do you think you're noble?" My chest tightens. I'm not noble. I'm just a man who had everything taken from him. My son, my dignity, my trust. You laugh at me, you call me dull, but you had no problem taking my name, my roof, my money. And then you spit on it. Her tears finally spill. "That's not fair. You shut me out for years. I tried to reach you. You were always burying yourself in work, in your own head. I needed more." I let out a dry laugh. "So you slept with some bartender in Reno?" She glares, tears streaking her cheeks. "He made me feel alive. I won't apologize for that." I swallow a lump of rage. "Then don't. This was never about an apology. This is about me wanting to watch you squirm for once. You said you do not regret. Do you stand by that now?" She trembles. "Yes," she says, though her voice wavers. "I don't regret finding some happiness, but I regret how I went about it. God. Michael, I thought you were dead. Do you have any idea what that did to me?" I stare at her in disbelief. She's trying to claim victimhood now. "So you do feel something?" I say. "Tell me, did you open the box?" She nods, refusing to look away. "I did. Then you know I documented every lie, every receipt, every message. The DNA test for Tommy. It's all there." She cringes. "Yes, I know." And her lips part, but the words don't come easily. I can't undo it, Michael. Tommy, he doesn't know. I never wanted to hurt him. Brandon isn't ready to be a father. And you were good to him. You always were. I messed up." The wave of her voice cracks. I see in her the flicker of guilt, but also an undercurrent of defiance. She's telling the truth as she sees it. Broken, messy, but not remorseful for her pursuit of a thrill. The rest, yes, she regrets, but not the spark that led her down that path. An ache claws at my chest. This is it. The moment I wanted. The confrontation. But it doesn't feel triumphant. My anger is no longer enough. Underneath, there's a raw emptiness that threatens to swallow me. I wonder if I've gone too far. I think of my parents. My sister. I staged a funeral. I let them mourn. For what? To see Ashley tremble. That's part of it, but it also feels so hollow now. I catch my breath, glancing around the living room. My old chair is still there. On the mantel, a wedding photo of us, dusty and slightly askew. On the coffee table, an empty wine glass, lipstick mark along the rim. She was probably drinking alone, or waiting for him. I close my eyes, summoning my nerve. I have one last question. I say, why? She straightens. Because I thought. No, I wanted more from life than stale routines. I got tired of waiting for you to see me. Brandon saw me. He found me interesting, exciting, and I lost myself in that. It's not an excuse, it's just the truth. The honesty in her tone stings like acid. She's telling me she loved the excitement more than the loyalty we built. Or I thought we built. The weight of it presses on my lungs. All right, I whisper. Now I know. She wipes her tears. So what happens now? I regard her. I'm not staying. Don't worry. You can have your life. You can have your boy. But know this. I'm not dead. And if you or your friend tries to claim any of my estate, if you attempt to manipulate my parents, or if you do anything to keep me from seeing Tommy, assuming I want to, then I'll show up. And I'll make your life 1,000 times worse than anything you've experienced so far. A spark of defiance flickers behind her eyes again, as though she's about to deliver some biting comeback. But she just exhales. Fine. I stare at her for a long moment. Everything in me wants to say more. Something about the love we shared, about the nights we laughed in this living room, about how the Cold War between us started. But words fail. Instead, I step aside, giving her space to move. She slips around me, still trembling, to open the front door. The night air rushes in, swirling with the fragrance of dead leaves. You ruined us, she says quietly. Maybe I did too. But this is insane. Is it? I step onto the porch, my pulse hammering so hard it echoes in my ears. I'd say it's the only rational response I had left. She doesn't move. She stands there in the doorway. I hear her breathing, slow and ragged. She's waiting for me to go. Maybe she hopes I'll vanish like a bad dream. I walk down the steps. The night is still, a thick hush broken only by the faint chirp of distant crickets. I sense her eyes on my back. Before I head to the sidewalk, I turn. The porch light casts shadows across her face. She looks vulnerable, undone. Our eyes lock one last time. Michael, she says, voice hoarse. Do you hate me now? I weigh the question in the silence. Then I answer in a quiet rasp. No, I hate what you did, but hate you. That would mean I still love you enough to care. She flinches, tears glistening. The final blow. I see her mouth open, but no words come. Slowly, she shuts the door, as if retreating from a ghost. I linger on the street, half expecting her to run out, to say something else. She doesn't. Only the wind answers, rustling the withered trees. I exhale, a long, trembling sigh. It's over. The revenge is done, but the price is steep. My parents grieved a son who isn't dead. My sister lost her brother's presence. Tommy lost the father figure he never truly had. And Ashley lost a husband she declared she no longer needed. We all lose. Driving away, the city lights flicker in my rearview mirror. My mind replays every step that led me here. The discovery, the elaborate plan, the funeral, the final confrontation. And that look in her eyes, some mixture of guilt and desperation. I got my pound of flesh, but it feels heavier than I ever imagined. I pull over near a deserted strip mall, park under a burned-out lamp. My breath hitches as I think of Tommy. He's a child, innocent in all this. Does he deserve the father who faked his own death? No child deserves that. I bury my face in my hands, but tears don't come. Instead, there's a raw ache, a sense of finality. The wind moans around the truck. In the darkness, I consider my next move. Maybe I vanish for good, or maybe I eventually resurface quietly, talk to my sister, figure out how to salvage something real with Tommy. Some minimal contact. At least. The future is a yawning canyon in front of me, uncertain and grim. But at least I'm no longer drowning in secrets. I think of Ashley's words. I do not regret. And I wonder if, deep down, she regrets more than she'll ever admit. Maybe in her private moments, she weeps for the stable life she traded for a fleeting rush. Or maybe she's exactly the woman she showed me in that living room, defiant and unrepentant. It no longer matters. I shattered the illusions we both clung to. I checked the rearview mirror out of habit. The empty lot stretches behind me, silent as a grave. No one is coming after me. There's no pursuit. I'm free. If you can call a man haunted by his own revenge free. Shaking off the numbness, I start the engine. My mind wanders to that shoebox again, the label I wrote in bold marker, open when I'm gone. She opened it, and now she knows everything. She knows the depth of my anger, my heartbreak. If that doesn't leave a scar on her, nothing will. I pull out onto the empty road. I drive in silence. My eyes drift to the passenger seat where I keep a small photograph of Tommy, taken at a summer barbecue last year. He's grinning, a little smudge of chocolate ice cream on his chin. My chest knots. Maybe I never was his biological father, but I was there. I held him when he cried, taught him to toss a ball, read him bedtime stories. That was real, no matter who contributed the DNA. As I press my foot to the gas, I remember a line I once read. Sometimes love doesn't stay dead just because you stabbed it. That's the truth. My love for Tommy, that paternal protectiveness, refuses to die. But my love for Ashley, that might be gone. And in its place, I'm left with something emptier, shaped like sorrow, with edges of regret. Yet we all have to pay for our decisions. Hers was an affair that tore us apart. Mine was staging my own death for revenge. Now I must carry the weight of that choice, just as she must live with the knowledge of what she did, how she lost me, how she condemned Tommy to a life without the man he once called Dad. There's no neat resolution. There's only the road, the darkness, and the faint hope that maybe, someday, the ashes of this tragedy can sprout something new in me. A sense of acceptance, a shot at redemption. Or maybe I'll just become a wanderer, drifting from one place to the next, telling no one who I really am. As the miles roll under my wheels, a sliver of moonlight cuts across the dashboard, illuminating my hands. They're steady again. The trembling is gone. I feel oddly calm, a man who's done the unthinkable to pry himself from betrayal's grip. If it cost me my old life, so be it. That life was already dead the moment I discovered her in Reno, smiling in that photo with him. I pull onto the highway, heading west. Another truck whooshes by, and I wonder briefly if it's carrying a father home to his family, or a husband heading back from a business trip. It occurs to me that none of them know my story, just as I don't know theirs. We all share roads and pass each other in the night, oblivious to the private wars waging in the next vehicle. The sky is big and empty. Memories flicker across my mind's eye. The day of our wedding, Ashley's wide grin. The first time we held Tommy, how small he felt in my hands. The creeping suspicion when I saw that Reno photo. The suffocating finality of the lab results. The day I set that car ablaze, forging my own death. And tonight, confronting her face to face, hearing that slight tremble in her mocking voice, finally seeing a crack in her armor. This is the cost, I remind myself. And it's not a cheap one. I drive on, the cold wind trailing through a small crack in the window. There's no going back, no do-overs. Maybe I'll find a way to see Tommy again. Maybe I'll stay a ghost. All I know is the man I used to be is gone, burned up on that highway. And the man I am now has to live with what I've done. But for the first time in weeks, I feel something like clarity. She doesn't regret, and I can't pretend to forgive. That's our truth. And so, in the hush of my truck's cab, with the road stretching into the blackness ahead, I make peace with that. If we ever cross paths again, I'll be the stranger at her door. She thought I was her husband. Now, maybe I'm just another consequence she'll never escape. Maybe I'm nothing at all, a ghost drifting in the night. I tighten my grip on the wheel, watch the exit sign flash by. Somewhere down this road is my uncertain future. And behind me, in that quiet suburban house, is a woman who once called herself my wife. Reading the final lines of my revenge in the silence I left behind, searching for a glimmer of regret she might never feel. I press on the gas, letting the darkness swallow me whole. And for the first time, there's no more tension in my chest, only the cold acceptance that I got where I wanted, even if it damned us both in the end.